Minnesota Vikings 23, Arizona Cardinals 22. Vikings move to 10-2. Cardinals fall to 6-6. Cardinals were doing their thing early on, hanging tough. They were up 9-6 at the half. They get up 19-6 deep into the second half, late into the third quarter. But the Vikings kept fighting back. Man, Sam Darnold finds Johnny Munt for a touchdown to get it to 19-13. Field goal to make it 19-16. And then when they're down 6, we'll talk about that in a second here. Vikings with the game-winning touchdown. Darnold to Aaron Jones with $1:18 left in the game.
Yeah, the Aaron Jones redemption arc, having been the guy that fumbled it away early.
Fumble and a dropped touchdown, if you want to call that a drop. Probably right. One of Sam Darnold's best throws of the game, wheel route to Aaron Jones that he was unable to haul in.
And he had been essentially, punishment benched after the fumble. Like they'd taken him out and they were running Cam Akers and Chandler in there instead. And
lesson learned.
Just in case you were clear, don't fumble the ball. That's bad. Which is a shame because, Cam Akers, I thought, actually played pretty well. But Aaron Jones is a dynamic running back, and they are significantly better when he's in the lineup. So it's funny because it's a difficult call as a coach. Do you make the point? You can't. Fumbling is unacceptable. You can't do that. Sit down. Or do you accept that, but he's your best player as a running back. You kind of need him in the lineup. You're making yourself voluntarily worse by sitting him down on the sideline to make the point that fumbling is not acceptable, which, to be honest, he already knows. It's not like that's new information to him, right? So it's interesting that whole call. They did make that call. They had Cam Akers and Ty Chandler in there. Jones comes back, ends up being a guy to make that play late on. This turnover stuff for Minnesota is a problem, though. They are one of the most turnover-prone offenses in football for a team that otherwise shouldn't be. They've got so many talented playmakers. They're able to move the ball extremely well. They've got an incredibly aggressive and good defense, and yet they're making a lot of games very close because they keep turning the ball over, often in critical situations like the red zone.
That's kind of what I thought kept this close. I think
not just close, but put them in a hole.
Put them in a massive hole. Arizona, I was breaking down Kyler against the blitz. It was like night and day what he was doing against Minnesota. Kyler had a couple throws early on where I was like, oh, maybe he's feeling it. There's also this had another weird just miss on a back shoulder to Marvin Harrison Jr. They still have just a couple misses in their connection that seem curious. They could be so much better because to me, that's Arizona's games when those guys are on, when Trey McBride is on. But Kyler Murray, when he wasn't blitzed in this game, 15 of 19 for 156. When he was blitzed, 3 turnover-worthy plays, just 16 of 26 for 104 yards, including 2 picks.
I think this was a really good game to illustrate how hard it is to be good against the Brian Flores defense. Kyler Murray made a lot of really good plays. He also made a lot of mistakes, and it's a case of where does the balance fall there? And then the other thing is, the Arizona receivers made an incredible amount of just really good contested catches, Vikings DBs with hands all over the football at the catch point, and those guys are still bringing in the catch. Michael Wilson had a couple, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a couple, Trey McBride had a couple. That defense is forcing you to not just find the right place to go with the ball versus the blitz and versus the creative look up front, but then at the catch point, they're going to challenge as well and make it you got to catch the ball cleanly and well and be strong through the catch point. They make it so hard to complete passes against them.
Everything was difficult in this game.
And at some point all you need to do is to move the margins a little bit so that instead of, an offense averaging 65% completion rate, you just move it 10% the other way and you end up winning the game because of that.
Another game I was so impressed with Sam Darnold. Again, man, in the game-winning drive, I know it was a little inconsistent early on, but the whole fourth quarter, Sam Darnold. And then we have talked about Jonathan Gannon, his fingerprints on this Arizona defense, and it was kind of, I think, Flores-like in how Arizona attacked Darnold in the fourth quarter, especially on that final drive. They would sit back in coverage and then send the house. Sit back in coverage and then send the house. It was like we used to talk about the Vikings last year when it was send 3, send 6. It was this extreme where you could have too much time and then you have no time. And it's like pitching with, changing speeds as a pitcher. And Darnold is standing in there, throw after throw, 4th and 5, hits a stick route to Justin Jefferson just as he's about to get hit. Other passes just as he's about to get hit, and he hits the big dig route. I think you talk about Kevin O'Connell and what he's been able to do with Darnold. They run that deep dig route, and I checked it a couple weeks ago. Darnold had the most yards on, your 15 to 25 yard in cuts. Did it again on the final drive, pinpoint, hits a beautiful deep out to Jordan Addison around coverage. I mean, it feels like there's a good mix of difficult throws that Darnold is putting on point in this offense. And then when you get into the red zone, all year, it feels like there's a lot of open throws in the tight red zone, inside the 5, inside the 10. But Darnold also showing patience to get there, patience to get out the ball out to Johnny Munt, who's wide open. I thought the scheme to get Aaron Jones running across the formation for the game winner was outstanding. It is just a very good combination of Darnold running the offense, then using Justin Jefferson to open things up, and then on a 4th and 5, giving him an opportunity to be the guy that gets the conversion, and then Darnold making big-time throws into tight windows and putting them where they need to be, even when he's getting hit. Just so impressed with the whole offense, but also Darnold specifically running the show.
Yeah, I mean, I said heading into this game, this might be the best coached matchup in the NFL game, this season, this week, whatever. You've got Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores from Minnesota, both doing a really high-level job. And then you've got what Arizona is doing on both sides of the ball. And for all the credit that we gave Brian Flores' defense, I mean, this Arizona defense did an incredible job as well. Okay, on some plays, they got out-coached or out-called by Kevin O'Connell for specific plays. But, they effectively had the same volume of pressure as Minnesota's defense did without any of the talent, without any of the individual players that can win those one-on-one matchups. And they had the sacks that the Vikings weren't able to get. Now, a large part of that is the difference between Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray in terms of elusiveness. But to get sacks, like that number of sacks against the Minnesota offense, given the play caller that they had, given Sam Darnold playing at a high level, given the options that they've got to get rid of the football, amazing job by that Arizona defense again, which has been a consistent theme throughout this year. And then, the offense was able to get some stuff done. They just didn't have enough.
Last thing, I mentioned this last night. I talk a lot about fourth quarter comebacks for quarterbacks, and I think that's like a skill and that's a style over time. I do think Kevin O'Connell's the first coach that I've looked at and said, is this a coach that's actually good in these situations? Because he was the first guy to really unlock Kirk Cousins. As fluky as the 2022 Vikings were, had all those fourth quarter comebacks, and was it KOC that unlocked Cousins, a style in those fourth quarter comebacks. He's doing it with Sam Darnold as well in a situation like this, where it's a little bit of scheming it up and it's a little bit of kind of turning the knobs on aggressiveness the right way. And it feels like O'Connell's offenses have been doing that, since 2022.
Yeah, and again, like Kirk Cousins, like the narrative changed on him. Remember earlier in his career, it was like primetime Kirk Cousins melts down, right? Like under the pressure, under the spotlight, under the lights, Cousins is terrible. And then that changed. And actually, primetime Kirk Cousins has been better than regular Kirk Cousins for the last several years, which kind of coincides with the Kevin O'Connell era as well. And there's definitely a degree to which Kevin O'Connell rewired Kirk Cousins, the way he approached the game. And, we always joke that late in the game, Kirk Cousins used to play like his stats were on the line rather than the game was on the line, right? Like, what will give me a better passer rating? Oh, it's the dump off to the running back who gains 8 in this 3rd and 15 situation, which isn't really helping. I don't think that was actually what was going on in his head, but it's the way it was manifesting. And Kevin O'Connell changed that and actually got him playing what actually improved, what gets us the bigger win percentage here, not the best stats, right? And that had an effect. And he does appear to be working that magic on Sam Darnold as well. And this is why he's a really good coach.
Yeah, I think he's – and then you have the ballpark factors. Sam Darnold goes from throwing the ball where Aaron Rodgers is, right? You go from that ballpark ballpark, stadium.
Very little wind in the dome.
Right, to a dome. That is a factor as well. But yeah, just very impressed with Sam Darnold.
And then quickly, the late game scenario where
Greg Olsen highlighted very
Vikings are making their comeback. Arizona's up 3. They get into the red zone. They had a bad play. I forget what it was, but then they get most of it back on 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20. It's now 4th and 5, 4th and goal from the 5. And it's the classic situation. The analytics play. Do we go for it on 4th and goal from the 5, or do we kick the field goal, go up 6, which actually might be a bad thing? And Greg Olsen on commentary, he literally said, all right, I'm going to take a minute and run you through this, and broke it down, explained exactly why going up by 6 is not necessarily a good thing for the offense, because it means the opposing team has to play for a touchdown the entire way. They're more aggressive, which tends to result in better outputs, better performances. And actually, if they do get the touchdown, you lose the game because, as opposed to playing for the tie, where it's still theoretically like a 50-50 proposition if you get to overtime. And this was like the perfect case study of that actually playing out exactly the way the analytics would say, because the Vikings were aggressive. They did convert on a 4th and 7 on that drive. They did get the touchdown, and then they ended up winning the game because of it.
It's a double whammy too, because if you score when you're up 3 and you score a touchdown,
that's basically over.
Right, you ends the game.
Right.
You have the ability to end the game on offense. If you fail, the other team's playing for a tie, and you still have a chance to win. And if you succeed, well, you could give up a touchdown and completely lose the game. So credit Greg Olsen. You highlighted that. I saw Lindsey Rhodes tweeted that out and kind of highlighted. Great job by Greg Olsen. That is outstanding. That is the opposite of what we've heard in past years from other analysts who are like, I don't know why they're doing this. All Greg Olsen has done is taken the time to understand the why behind a whole lot of scenarios. And then his superpower is the biggest challenge for any color commentator is to take a complicated concept and convey it in a matter of seconds. And he does that as well as anybody.
I mean, I saw somebody tweeting that it shouldn't be notable that he's done that. Like, that should be a basic requirement for every color commentator to be able to explain this counterintuitive thing that you're seeing, right? Going for it on 4th and goal instead of kicking a field goal and going up 2 field goals is actually smart, and here's why. That should be a basic job requirement for that position, right? And yet it is notable because Greg Olsen is basically the only guy out there doing it. Chris Collinsworth, our former boss, occasionally does it, and he's pretty good at that stuff. There are other guys out there that will still act like that's idiocy, and that's an egregious failing of their job.
Completely
honestly.
agree. Yeah, it's your job to know and be like, I don't know why they're doing this. You should know why they're doing it.
Imagine the scoffing that would take place on that play during Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, right? Like, they would be going, the analytics say go for it. I don't know if I agree with this play. You're like, come on.
Wonder if Michael Lombardi agreed with taking the points. He's a big take the points guy.
Yeah.
Should ask Michael what he thinks. So I just want to shout out to Greg Olsen. Greg, we're trying to get you on the show here to talk about it if you're going to, come join us on the show. Trying to get Greg here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.